Hey there! Welcome to Tuesday. Topic today is personal and family budget. You have your notes that you've printed out and ready to follow along. So, this is kind of related to yesterday, what we were talking about with assets, liabilities, net worth, right? This is still in that topic dealing with money, but today it's about budgets, and you're about to find out what that is. So, your warm up is a review, a little bit on assets and liabilities from yesterday. Let's go through this together. It says Leroy's net worth is $9,456. His assets are shown below in this table. What must the total value of Leroy's liabilities be? What must that be? So remember, we're dealing with assets, liabilities, and net worth. Remember that formula from yesterday, the net worth formula. Assets minus liabilities equals, let's see if I can write this, liabilities equals net worth, NW for net worth, since I'm running out of room. Total assets, remember all of the assets added together, plus all of the liabilities added together, minus all of the liabilities added together, equals net worth. So here we need to work backwards a little bit. They're telling us that the net worth is 9,456. So we know the end part. And his assets are shown below. This is just a table of all his assets, cash, jewelry, and savings. So we could add all this and get his total assets. Okay, why don't we do that? That's going to be about 6, and then 4, 5, 1. Okay, so if I did that correct, that should be 15,640. That is the amount of all of his assets, 15,640. So really what we're missing is the liabilities right here. So 15,640 minus something, the liabilities, is going to equal 9,456. Hey, this should look familiar. This should look like solving one-step equations from earlier in the year where we're missing a, right? This is like minus x. Liabilities would be x. So how do we work backwards and undo? 15,640 minus what? Well, we just do subtraction. We can subtract 15,640 minus 9,456 to work backwards, and that would give us the liability. That is going to be, let's see if we regroup, 4, that's 8, 1, 6. Okay, liabilities must be $6,184, and that is our answer. This was working backwards to figure that out. Okay, so let's jump right into budgets. There is a video that I will link separately for you to watch because I can't play it here in the recording. So I'm going to move on from this. Alright, this whole slide right here is going to set up what we're talking about today. We're going to refer to this picture for quite a bit. Okay, the Lorenzo family budget, it's a pie chart, as you can see. This is basically a pie chart with different categories divided up, right? And all of this represents the Lorenzo monthly family budget. We have several vocabulary words that you will hear in today's topic that you will get to know, and you should know what those are. And as we come across them, I will define them for you. So let me read out loud, starting here, what's actually going on. The Lorenzo family is building their budget, which is a plan for spending. So there is your definition for budget. It is a plan for spending. That's it. Just a plan. You could have a budget for anything. I could have, if I'm throwing a party, a birthday party, I could have a budget just for that party, meaning, well, I have an amount. I have $500 that I want to spend for that party and no more. Well, that's my budget for the party, and I can divide that up into little categories, of course. But I could have a budget for a party, I could have a budget for my monthly bills, I could have a budget for a wedding, a budget for so many things. It's just a plan for spending. The definition of budget. Okay, moving on. The circle graph shows their total income after taxes are deducted and their monthly spending or expenses. Expenses. The definition of expenses is just spending. You've heard that word before. Knowing both income and expenses is necessary to build their family plan for spending or family budget. So a family budget is just a plan, but a plan that the whole family is doing. A personal budget is just one that you personally would do. Okay, don't get so caught up in this whole paragraph of description up there. We're going to focus on this picture and answer a bunch of questions using the Lorenzo family budget. Questions that you might see on a quiz or test, questions that kind of come off of a pie chart like this. Let's make a few observations about the Lorenzo family budget actually. What is, first of all, we should always get a total. What is their total? Like what's all the money in the budget? What's that as a total? You would add everything up because we might need that total. We definitely will need that total. So give me a second to add everything up. Okay, so I've added everything up and I got 5,500. That's all of the money in their monthly family budget. And that money, that total, has been divided up into so many categories. We can see that the largest category is housing. This is the one that's taking up the most money. Notice, let's pick out our smallest one, that is entertainment. And then the second highest is taxes. Then there's a bunch that are very similar. Okay, so those are things that you should kind of observe about this pie chart. So let's jump into some questions regarding this. Oh, before we do questions, actually, we've got two other vocabulary terms we need to go through. Again, this is relating to this Lorenzo family budget. Fixed expenses versus variable expenses. Remember, we just talked earlier that expenses is just money that's spending money. So what would fixed expenses mean? Fixed expenses means money, fixed spending. Categories that have fixed spending, that means spending that does not change. For example, what categories have spending that will not change? Well, I'm going to highlight them for you. Retirement savings, emergency savings, college savings, and taxes as well, and housing. These categories, if you think about it, don't change every month. It's not like they change month to month. The housing, this would be the rent. That's going to stay the same every single month. Your rent stays the same. Also, your taxes pretty much stay the same every month. And if this family is setting aside like a fixed amount for savings, these also most likely 99.9% they don't change. They just stay every month, January, February, March. It's the same amount every month. Okay? And so let's say you could list those here: housing, taxes. You have much more room on your paper, so you could write a little neater than me. Housing, taxes, and basically all of the savings categories. Okay, so it would make sense that we're kind of heading in the opposite direction when it comes to variable expenses. Variable expenses change. It changes month to month. So let me use a different color and we'll identify what are things that could change month to month. Food, clothing, entertainment, transportation, gasoline, and, well, actually, I forgot utilities is one that, utilities, we'll leave that alone. Actually, that could go either way. These, the ones I've highlighted in yellow, are expenses that can change. Food, for example, let's talk about that. You don't really eat the exact same amount of food this month compared to that month. Close, but not exactly the same. Some months you might spend more on eating out. Some months you might spend more on groceries, less on groceries. Some months you might shop at Target more, which is more expensive, and some months you might shop at Walmart and save a little bit more money. So your food and groceries could really change month to month. This changes. Same with clothing. Do you really spend the exact same amount for clothing every month? You don't. Some months you splurge a little bit and buy a few more new clothes. Some months you don't go shopping at all for clothes. One month you might randomly need two new pairs of shoes, and so you might have to go out and buy some shoes. That's a change. Entertainment, same thing. You don't go to the movies the same or buy entertainment things the same every single month. And transportation basically means um, you're driving around and your car costs. Same with gasoline, right? The amount we drive does not stay exactly the same every single month. Depends, it could change a lot. So all of these are, and you could list these out right here. I don't have much room. Those are examples of things that are variable expenses because they change. Okay, so you have those two definitions now. Still dealing with the Lorenzo family budget. Question number one, find the total monthly budget. Remember we did that earlier? I added everything up and we got 5,500. That was from a few minutes ago. Number two, what makes up the largest category in the budget? That would be housing, as you can see. Easily identifiable. Housing. What percent is it out of the whole budget? So this is number three, still dealing with number two. What percent is housing out of the whole budget? So here's where math comes in. We need to change housing into a percent. It's right now it's been given to us in a dollar amount, $1,000, 540, but we need to change that to percent. We can look at that picture there and see that housing is it's like roughly a quarter. It looks to be close to like a quarter, 25%. But we want the exact amount. It's good to keep in mind that ballpark, but how do we find a percent? Well, we take 1540 housing over the total, which is 5,500. We divide to get some percent out of 100, right? So this is a division basically. 1540. Let's see, top in, bottom out. So what I'm doing is 1540 over 5,500. I'm going to work this out right here. 1540. Oh, goodness. 1540. 5,500. This is definitely an ugly number. And what I will do is divide that. And I get 0.28. 0.28 is a decimal, but we obviously want a percent, and that changes to 28%. Okay, so that's how you go get a percent out of this budget. Let's do the next couple of questions. What is the total amount of money budgeted towards savings? So what they want us to just pick out all the savings here. There's three types of savings in the budget. So if we need to get the total, all we're doing then is adding them. The 550 in retirement, 275 in emergency, and another 550 in college savings. And we add everything up. Let's see, 550 plus 275 plus 550 again, that is 1375. Just by adding all of the savings together. Okay? And then the follow-up question to that, number 5, is what percent is savings out of the whole budget? So savings, we just got that it is 1375, but what is that as a percent out of the whole budget? The whole budget again was 5,500. So remember that division. We're doing 1375 divided by 5,500 to get 0.25 is the answer to the division. 0.25, the decimal changes to 25%, and that's our answer. Savings makes up 25% of the budget, of the whole budget. Remember, you can pause and rewind the video whenever you need to. All right, the Lorenzo family budget still. Question number 6. What two categories make up an identical percent of the budget? Do you see two categories? These are two different categories, but they probably make up the exact same percent, and I spot them. That is gasoline and utilities. Two separate things, two separate categories, but they're the exact same amount, and then so obviously their percents must be the exact same. So gas and utilities. Utilities, if you don't know, is like electricity and water, those things. All right, number 7. What percent of the budget is spent on food? We're looking at food now. Food is $440, but they're not asking for the money, they're asking for the percent. So again, remember percent, that's going to be the total was 5,500, and we're trying to figure out, well, 440 divided by 5,500 is what percent? Decimal, 0, long division. 440 divided by is 0.08. As a decimal, that's 0.08. Then that is 8%. Finally, what is the difference between the greatest and the least category in the budget? Just the greatest and the least, the difference. So difference means subtract. Greatest is, let's see, what's the biggest? Housing versus the smallest? Entertainment. So housing minus entertainment. What's the difference between those two? That's going to be our answer. 1540 minus 55. The answer is $1,485. It's a big difference. Okay, so that is how you use the pie chart, a picture of a budget, to kind of answer different types of questions off of it. I have a separate one. a whole new example. This time we're dealing with Anna's personal family budget. This time, why don't you pause the video and try and answer a question yourself first, and then compare it with what I put. Okay, question 1. Identify the components of her budget. Well, all that means is just list out the categories. What are all the categories? And for me, it's going to be hard to write them here. For you, it's easier. Housing, taxes, um, food. Basically, list everything out. All of these categories. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 categories. Go ahead and list out all 9. That's going to be number 1. Number 2, calculate the percent of her budget for housing. So we're going to be focused on housing. And we need to we understand that housing is $554, but what is that as a percent? Okay, so before we find percent, what I should have done that I forgot is just add everything up to get a total here in this whole budget. Add all the categories up and figure out how much money total is even in this budget. So give me a second while I add it all up. Okay, I've got the total. It is 1,504. So now I have the two parts I need to calculate the percent. I need to do housing is 554 over 1,504. I need to figure out what is this as a percent by dividing. That's the only way. And it is ugly. It is a hard number and it's not really fun, but top goes in, bottom goes out in order to figure this out, right? And you're going to put a decimal and a 0. Let's work this out. 554 divided by 1,504. That is 0.36. 0.36 is 36%. Okay, so that's how you do that one. Number 3, calculate the percent of her budget for taxes. Round to the nearest percent. So taxes, we focus on that. What is that as a percent? That's 245 over, remember the total? The total was 1,504. So 245 divided by 1,504 will give us our percent. Work that out. 245 divided by 1,504. I get about 0.16, 1.62. This can just be rounded to 16%. So 16% is her budget for taxes. In real life, guys, you do have to break down the money that you get. You do have to break it down into categories like this in order to plan and know what to do with your money. Okay, number 4, which two categories are the same percent of her overall budget? That means which two categories are identical? That would be clothing and entertainment. Two completely different categories, but they have the same exact amount. Clothing and entertainment. All right, moving on. Identify the fixed expenses and variable expenses. Okay, remember, fixed means they don't change. No change, right? Month to month, there's no changes, they stay. Variable means it does change. That was the definition. So why don't I put housing is going to be a fixed. It stays the same. Your rent stays the same. Taxes is fixed. Savings, fixed. college savings is fixed as well. Food, variable. Clothing is a variable. Entertainment is variable. Transportation is variable. And utilities also variable. Those are the ones that change. So I just did F and V because it's a little hard for me to write on my screen, but you could actually list them out here in this space provided. All right, and then finally your exit ticket, the last two questions. What percent of Anna's budget is for variable expenses? Well, I had just figured out, didn't I? I had figured out that the variable ones were food, clothing, entertainment, transportation, and utilities. So first I need to add all of those. Utilities plus transportation plus entertainment plus clothing plus food. That got me all of these put together. Got me $600 total when I added. So what is the percent of those variable expenses? So 600 out of the total, which was 1504, that will give me the percent. So let me quickly do that division to get that answer. 600 divided by 1504 is, well, it's 0.398, which can be rounded to 0.4, and that is 40%. Okay. Number 7, if Anna needed to reduce her monthly budget, which expenses would most likely be easier to adjust? Okay, so she wants to decrease her spending. Which expenses, which category of spending would be the easiest one to tweak a little bit to just reduce so that the whole thing kind of reduces? Remember, it's easier to tweak or reduce the ones that change, right? Some things are fixed. Housing is fixed. That cannot change even if she wants to, unless she moved. So housing is really not one of those. Taxes, well, that's the government telling you what your taxes are, and you can't really change that too much. The things that are easiest to change are the variable expenses like food, clothing, entertainment, utilities, transportation. Definitely of those variable expenses, which are the ones that are like more in your control? Food, well, you kind of, we have to use some logic here. Food, well, you need food, and so we'll keep that. Maybe it's clothing and utilities, right? They're not like necessities. So I could say either clothing or entertainment. Clothing and entertainment kind of would be tied as the ones to be easiest to reduce. Okay, so I hope you followed along on the logic there. All right, that was a lot that we went through, and I hope you were able to follow along. Remember, you can always rewind and watch some parts back. Keep track of these notes. It's going to be useful for you on quizzes and tests. And good luck. Bye-bye.